9 podcasts.
Hello and welcome to AFLW Weekly. My name's Sarah Burt. I'm joined by Georgie Parker as always. Hello, George.
Hello, Sarah Burt. Saw you in September Club on the weekend. How are you feeling?
No, I'm good. All good. All above board.
Wonderful weekend of footy.
Huge weekend for footy fans in general.
Yep.
Obviously, we started on Thursday night, AFLW, and they did that because we needed clean air for the men's game on Saturday. So it meant that Friday was a huge day of footy for AFLW and Sunday another huge day, which we're going to get into. Let's take a look at what happened at the round just gone.
A milestone round for the AFLW and two of the competition's veterans, reigning best and fairest Ebony Marinoff from the Crows and Brisbane's Ali Anderson, who unbelievably at the same time became the first W players to notch up 100 games, both sides celebrating with a win. Then we had another record tumble at Moorabbin, where the Saints did the unthinkable and came back from 27 points down at three-quarter time to beat Port Adelaide by 11, the greatest three-quarter time comeback in the history of the comp. Jesse Wardlaw was huge, kicking 3 in the final term, leaving the Saints with 4 wins for the season and just outside the 8. And we thought we were on for a massive upset at Windy Hill, Essendon keeping North Melbourne goalless in the first term and leading by 20 points. But North did North things, scoring 71 somehow to win by 30. And we should know better by now, right? That's what they do. An absolute demolition at Casey Fields for Melbourne, beating Gold Coast 93-6. And the Suns' injury crisis going from bad to worse, with Claudia Whitford doing a hammy, Clara Fitzpatrick had an arm injury and Jack Dupay a head knock. It was not great news for the Hawks, with skipper Emily Bates suffering a shoulder injury. Hawthorn still getting the job done though over Geelong at GMHBA Stadium. And the Pies lost captain Ruby Schleicher to a quad concern as the Dogs ran over the visitors 65-8 at Whitten Oval. Ellie Blackburn wreaking havoc, kicking a career best 4 goals, along with 25 disposals, 4 tackles and 2 clearances. And that's the wrap. I'm Laura Spurway.
But it started with a tight game between the Cats and Geelong on Thursday night.
Cats and Geelong, hey? Cats and Hawks. It's been a long weekend.
There's too many animals.
Well, last year that game was the match of the round, or match potentially of AFLW history. But it was great for Hawks to get that win there.
We had Meg McDonald in with us on Friday night commentating 3OW, and unfortunately Meg again missed being picked for the side. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. She's the skipper. It's really disappointing when you're the skipper and you're not getting picked. I don't want to put words in Meg's mouth, but I know there's obviously frustration there, understandably. And I think it would be really hard to sit there and see your team not winning when you're not getting picked.
100%. But at the same time, I think it shows incredible club culture that they feel as though they can. And again, back to what we said a couple of weeks ago, I think it speaks volumes of her as a character.
Yeah, for sure.
Because so many times captains get picked when they shouldn't, because they feel as though they don't have enough leadership on the ground. They feel as though it's sending a funny message, but I think it's sending a really strong message that your performance on game day, during training, during the week, is being watched, it is being judged, and that's what we're going to pick you from. So I think it shows a really good message to the youngsters of anyone can be picked here. It's not this 23 always getting picked, or 21, in the women always getting picked. It's anyone can. So I think that shows such good culture, but you do feel for them in this position, and you're having to essentially hand the baton to someone else to do the job that, you've been voted by your peers on, you think you're probably best at. So yeah, it's hard.
She's shown a lot of great maturity in that.
Huge.
Something else, when we say anyone can be picked, literally anyone apparently, the West Coast players, most of them were out with the flu this week. They pulled in Lisa Steen, who was, I think she was named emergency, but she's not on their primary list. And she came in like she's just living there, and they pulled her in and they still managed to beat the Giants.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm Daisy Pearce, I'm pretty happy with that. They managed to navigate a pretty tricky situation.
Yeah, 100%. The Giants, and, we spoke probably a month ago being like, are they going to get a win? Had a couple of wins on the trot, probably then had full of confidence. But then the West Coast Eagles are flying this season. I think they have had... and I'll probably look in this in the next week or so and talk about it next week, but I'd like to look at these bottom 8 teams from last year and their run into this season, that perceived easier draw, which can give a lot of confidence to teams like the Eagles, these younger sort of sides. And you compare this to, and I'll talk this later on in this episode, you compare this to some age of the list to Port Adelaide, who've had a harder run, and you see their drop-off and their inconsistencies because of that. So the Eagles are taking advantage of that, and I like seeing that. I think... again, we said last week, all these players are playing for Daisy Pearce, and you could bring in, the 38th person that's not even on your list that's just living there and give a go and probably listen. And that comes from a really clear, concise message from what Daisy is trying to do there, really simple footy. And then we'll, bricklayer that on every week, every season. So awesome to see. The Giants, good, they've got a couple of wins under their belt, but probably where we expect them to probably not win too many more.
Yep, for sure. A lot of movement in the top 8, which we're going to touch on in our a bit later on, but a history-making day yesterday. We chat to Cathy Svarc later on in this episode. She played her 75th game for the Brisbane Lions. The Lions and Crows celebrated 100 games of their AFLW sides, playing 2 players that have not missed a game, which is just insane. Yep. In 10 seasons, Ebony Marinoff and Ali Anderson. So they celebrated their 100 games. They are the first athletes in the history of AFLW to do so.
Like you said, there's not many games. They've also played a lot of finals. You're getting your injuries at the right time. Having a long career is so many factors. It's all of those on top of resilience, on top of luck of injuries, things like that. So, you could be the best player of all time and not play that many matches. So there's a whole lot that goes into being able to put yourself into those positions.
And because the season's so short, they have to manage a lot of their own conditioning, fitness, everything throughout the year as well. You've got to keep yourself on track.
But on the flip of that, it gives you less opportunity to get injured.
True.
So, a lot of injuries come down to fatigue, things like that. So you might be 16 weeks into a season, your quad's a little tight, and then suddenly you can do an ankle because you're not running quite, your gait's a little bit off. So I think there is pros and cons to this small amount of short seasons to that kind of conditioning factor.
Yeah.
But that's not to take away from the fact when there's less games, there's less opportunities to play all these games. And I think you're having to look after yourself in the off season really well. And Eb was someone, we spoke to her last season, and you remember how she said, I wasn't earning that much money, but I stopped working. I stopped doing these things because I wanted to be the best player I could be as soon as possible.
She was very strong on wanting other players to do the same.
Yeah, too. And not what she called double dipping. And I had written an article similar, I think probably 2 weeks before, about players doing that. So many players could go off and play other sports, go and do these things. And she goes, no, I want to be amazing. And have a look at her. She has not dropped off ever. She's an incredible leader. She is an incredible individual player, and she does it correctly. Like, she'll win her hard ball. She'll play other people in it. For example, 2 weeks ago when they had their backs against the wall against Gold Coast, I put the game on a 3/4 time being like, wow, upset. And suddenly it was Eb Marinoff to Ponta to Hatchard, goal. Eb getting a goal, Eb getting tackles, doing all the things. She is a pure competitor. And then Ali Anderson, very similar, both very humble as well. So it's really nice to see. And to be honest, they're probably quite different personalities.
Very different, yeah.
So it's really nice to see, someone that's just like floating under the radar, and then Eb Marinoff, who's an absolute beast, weapon, loud individual.
Total firecracker.
Exactly. You know when she's in the room, having this really, really big special milestone, and you love, Eb Marinoff was there in the first premiership of AFLW, and I think that she was in every single photo with the cup I saw. I think she was on the back page of every paper. She was always next to Erin Phillips. I think she was literally carrying Erin Phillips' baby in the cup at the time. I think she was everywhere. So wherever the cup was, like a magnet.
We love it.
I love it. And so it's only fitting that someone like her, this absolute youngster, has gone through and evolved as a person and as a player, has gone on and won the best and fairest. It's really, I feel like it's like a nice little ribbon on something that's really special.
Let's get into our for the week. Okay, George, something that we want to discuss this week is Fremantle. They're here for 10 days.
Yeah.
They've got 2 games in Melbourne. So they played Carlton on Friday. They play the Hawks this Thursday. They're here for 10 days. A lot of babies in that group. They've all travelled with their families. They're all staying down here. But they are really struggling to find somewhere to train while they're here for 10 days.
Yeah, and I think it's a tough one for them particularly because they're not just trying to do a training run. They're trying to do like a captain's run, They're actually having to do a full main training session. And so when you're just doing captain's run, you just need some space to be able to, move things around, have a little run over your legs. But
Dodge the dog poo at Vic Park.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be completely fine there. But when you're doing a full training session, it needs to be up to standard because you're doing hard contact. You need the deck to be a position to not be injured. You need goals, I think even Lisa Webb was like, oh, we don't even need goals. And like, yes, we do need goals.
Yeah.
But and
that's how desperate they are.
Yeah, legitimately. My understanding is that not many clubs were very helpful for this side as well, which I found really sad. It's very unique to these sides, these interstate sides, of having to stay somewhere like here for a really long time. Collingwood are never going to have to go to Fremantle for more than 3 days. They're just not going to do that. It's very unique to these, for lack of a better word, interstate sides, non-Victorian sides, very unique to them. They're coming over here, really struggling to find a pitch, and clubs saying to them, oh, sorry, ground maintenance, you can't come and train at our pitch, at our ground.
It's like, where's the evolution for the greater good, the rest of the league? If your competitors can't train, how do you play against them?
Yeah, and my understanding is that Doggies said no, Collingwood said no, someone else said no, and often and I said, oh, what do the boys do? And I said, well, the boys don't usually come down for this long, but when they do, they come down and train at Wesley College. Well, Wesley College would be like, yeah, sure, come, but that's now turned into a cricket pitch, which now comes back into that timing of this is when things get really difficult for the women, of sharing the grounds with a sporting code that is now coming into season.
Yeah.
Marvel Stadium will now suddenly get a drop-in pitch for a Big Bash and all the things. That's fine. But this is then where it becomes a different problem for the women. I then asked also what happens when interstate clubs go to WA. Apparently they're allowed to train on Optus. It's totally fine. Whereas they're not allowed to play at the MCG or Marvel or anything like that for their captain's run. So I get really frustrated by the VFL because don't we want it to be a strong comp? A rising tide lifts all ships, right? Same kind of principle comes here. The better the worst side in the competition is, the better the comp is.
Absolutely.
So lift them, help them. And so I find that a bit sad, bit petty.
And I know the clubs manage their own training grounds, their own schedules outside of this, but I do think that this is a time where the AFL steps in and says, hey, we're going to help you out here. If it costs way too much to train here, we'll help you out because this is how we've fixtured it.
Well, so yeah, I think eventually it had to get escalated. So the Fremantle women's side reached out in the preseason, was like, okay, we know this is going to be a bit shit. Let's reach out in preseason. This was starting to come at them, 2 months ago. And still nothing helped. They end up having to escalate it to get that trained out at Windy Hill, but I can't imagine it's cheap. I don't think it's coming out of their soft cap. I don't think that it was gifted to them. And what's really annoying when they say, turf maintenance, well, Western Bulldogs, your men aren't training. What if the men were still training at the moment and then your women were training? You're telling me that the pitch wouldn't be up to standard for the men and the women training there at the same time? Well, absolutely it is. Also, this is 30 women training on there, not 50 men who cause much more damage in the way they play and the way they move. So just a bit shitty.
We also know that the women train mostly around the clubs. They do 3 full sessions a week and then maybe a captain's run. So even if they have to change their days, that there is space for them. Yeah. I honestly think it's a bit selfish of the clubs, and I think it's really short-sighted of the league in general to not have stepped in earlier. So I reached out to some of the other interstate clubs. Sorry for people that get offended by the interstate clubs, but non-Victorian clubs. The Brisbane Lions said they haven't had that issue in recent times, but they don't really have this situation often where you're playing 2 games back-to-back in Victoria.
And that's because it's to help Fremantle not have to travel again.
Well, but this is the issue because they're probably the only ones that really face it, and they went through this last year and we talked about it last year. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a solution just because it only affects one club. Yeah.
It's actually annoying that this one club has to do something. Like going away for 10 days is really hard for the girls who are working, the mothers who are here, in terms of the difficulty that it puts onto the off-field staff.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I completely agree with you. It's frustrating, and let's help our fellow, just put your agenda aside for 1 second.
Yeah, agreed.
That's why I'm picky, because I'm just too damn busy. Turn the L's into
Let's get into our
W's.
L's and W's for the week. George, do you have a W for me?
I got plenty of W's, baby.
Let's hear
Got plenty of W's. Ellie Blackburn.
Yep.
That's a massive W for me, and probably the way that the Doggies played against Collingwood. An absolute blitzing. But I loved seeing Ellie Blackburn back in the middle.
Oh, just let the girl play in the midfield.
And her body's they're probably just getting her right to be in there. So let's have a look at what she ended up with. 4 goals, if you don't mind, 25 disposals, 4 tackles as well. And, Alice Edmond was really, really great in the ruck. She really held Pritchard really as good as well, 33 touches to her name.
Edmonds would have to be close to best in the league.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She's great. She played that role perfectly of getting it to the big players like Ellie. And so when you have a ruck being able to do that, so when she's fit and healthy, and what I really wanted to highlight was how hard we were on the Doggies last year. We were really hard.
I was just thinking that when you were praising
There were
them.
moments where they were so bad. Do you remember when I think they took 8 marks the entire match?
Yeah.
And you just thought, what are you doing? And so Ellie Blackburn's an enormous presence on the field. Not only does she able to find the ball herself, but she changes the way oppositions play because they have to be worried about her. So whether or not you're having a run with player, which is very hard to run with her because she's so strong, but a bit like Bree Davey in that sort of way. But she changes the way the opposition plays against you, which then creates holes against your opposition. So I think she was really missed last year by the Doggies, but her being back in the midfield is a massive win for me because we want players like her getting the ball, being active on the scoreboard, and being back to their best because, again, it lifts the entire league.
Yeah.
So that's my one W.
That's good.
And my other W, and we'll touch on it in the interview, but the scenes at Springers where the men probably didn't smell all that good, probably a lot of glasses on. I don't think many showers were had after celebrations.
Half of them were still in there playing kids.
Yeah, I love it. You should be wearing that for as long as possible. But I loved that they went there, watched them play, celebrated the images of them hugging all the female players and females, getting excited, looking at the medals. That for me shows that one club mentality, and again shows that would love to have them all in one space. So gather round in Melbourne where you can have that option, the ability for them to watch and share those moments, because that's what we want. We want that from the AFLW level to translate into then local club level, that you have the men's and the women's supporting each other on game day in a local level, from Colts up to seniors, because that is really special, and that's what so many other sports have that footy didn't have for so long, and it's starting to seep in, and it helps when the women's and the men's side both very, very good. We're very probably lucky that that's happened so early.
Yeah, and we talked last week about, obviously, as you just touched on, how disappointing it was that the women couldn't be there to watch the men, but there was a silver lining in that when the men did come back, there was this great reunion scene. But it's the best second option, but we would still prefer for them to have been able to be there
100%,
on the day.
100%. What do you got for me, though?
My W, Saints and Jessie Wardlaw, to be specific.
Oh, she was good, wasn't
They
she?
had the greatest three-quarter time comeback. 27 points. Jessie Wardlaw kicked 3 goals. The Saints kicked 6-2 to 0. Power was 0 in the fourth quarter. This is huge. And I think it's really, really exciting to see, and we have seen things like this before, but we keep talking about how records are being broken this season constantly. But that is such a good sign. You know, the Saints, I'm not looking at the Saints thinking you guys are absolutely at the top of your powers this season, but to see them beat someone like Power in such a force, because before the three-quarter time, it wasn't looking that great. Like, I wasn't sitting there thinking this is a brilliant game of footy to watch. But for them to just dig deep, pull something out of it, obviously having Jessie Wardlaw assists, but I just think that that's a real positive for when we see things like that, people that aren't already engaged in AFLW. Did you see that? That was amazing. And it's really exciting. So that's
Sounded like Kath and Kim just then.
This is amazing.
Isn't it funny how different your voice sounds on telly?
Carol, get over here.
Let's go, Kimmy. No, you're so right. And don't forget, Saints also beat Adelaide earlier this year. So they are obviously a really confident side, which can only grow and give them some excitement for the year to come, and gives you as a Saints fan a little bit of hope.
For sure. I think they're doing well, but
Yeah.
I'm not looking at them saying,
No, God, no.
You know,
Oh, no. They're not a powerhouse.
You're not going to be beating the Kangaroos.
No, I mean, who is? That's the question. So your W goes into my L, because my L is the inconsistency of Port Adelaide. They're good, pretty good. They're bad, really bad. And that comes from being really young. But I think that there might be a little bit of a mental thing here of last season getting to a prelim, having that 8 run on a trot. Sometimes that can give you a false sense of confidence, a false sense of where you're at as a team. And particularly if you're a young side, you can go, I'm good. I'll do what I did last year. But you can't actually, as a player, ever do what you did last year. You can build on what you do last year. That's what good sides do. Good players do, good individuals do. Go, I did that last year, but where could have I improved? And I wonder if there's a little bit of, sitting back going, oh, we're good, look at that. We'll take a mark, sorry. We'll do that. Houghton will do something cool. So I think that they're going to have a big off season, because their drop off, their bad quarter drop offs are not good enough at the moment, and so that can I think that's really frustrating to see, because they should be better than this, I think, with the talent that they've got on their list. And I think it's just really disappointing to see.
You don't want to see anyone getting complacent. And it's like what we just talked about with Eb Marinoff. Complacency is not a word in her vocabulary.
No.
And she would have the best phrasing out of anyone in the whole league too. But I agree. And we talked about this with Sydney the other week too. Sometimes teams just walk into a game and they think, we've got this in the bag, and you can't. As a competitor, you cannot be like that.
100%. And, you used Ed Marinoff there as an example, and, they've been in positions where they could have lost. And, this week just gone, they gritted out a win. They were in a position that, people probably could have or should have lost that, and any other team might have lost that.
Yep.
But good teams don't.
Yep.
They fight them out. They grit them out. Hawthorn probably a little bit similar this year. So they're winning when maybe they shouldn't. And so Port, I think, have a lot of learning to do. And maybe last year, sometimes, and I think Gold Coast a couple of years ago, similar, made finals and then big drop off. I think sometimes overachieving can actually set you back if you're not in the right space to achieve that, if that makes sense. Because if you think you're all that and a bit, well, then you train like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to still chasing and have that, fire inside of you. So it's a bit of watch this space, I think, for Port, and see how they handle this in the next coming season.
Speaking of complacency, and this is my words, I'm not going to put them in your mouth, George, but my L for this week is there was a 3.5 minute delay in a score assist in the North versus Essendon game, and it was plain awkward watching it. There was no announcement. There was no communication with the players. Everyone was wandering around for 3.5 minutes.
A long time in footy.
A long time, particularly when your quarters are, like
15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what happened if you didn't see it? Bonnie Toogood snapped a goal. Emma Carney said that she touched it with her pinky finger.
I like how you wrote this one after it. No announcement. Everyone just sitting there. Orcs.
It was orcs. It was so orcs. That's my key takeaway from this. But what else is orcs is that it should not have taken that long. We're told that the ball chip technology pretty much registers. It's meant to automatically register if you touch the ball. I understand that it's not always going to work as it should.
And there's a human element to it as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
But Emma was standing there saying, yeah, I did touch it, and has since asserted that she did still touch it. But Bonnie celebrated the goal. Everyone was standing around. And so it was awkward because they celebrated the goal and then it was just, why is the game stopped?
Yeah, and it's the communication that you need, because then if you know that there's going to be a bit of time, you can make your changes. You can come in for a huddle. You can maybe get your defenders up to the midfielders as opposed to having a defensive huddle and a midfield huddle, striker, that's very a hockey of me, forward huddle. So I think that communication is there. And I think sometimes AFLW is a victim of the younger umpires not being able to just, let everyone not know and have that assertiveness.
Yeah.
Maybe
also just for the fan experience too. Tell them what's going on because everyone is standing there wondering what's happening. And we want people to come to the games. We want them to have a good experience there. And if you don't know what's going on, it's very hard to understand how to actually follow the game. So
100%.
That was my L. One more L that I had.
Very funny.
Poor Ebony Marinoff's boyfriend, Nick, okay? He is a Brisbane Lions supporter. Eb was
in the men only.
In the men only, yes, of course. Eb was in the motorcade on Saturday, pre-grand final. So they were at the grand final for that and then watching the game, obviously, because Nick and I imagine Eb both wanted to see the Lions win. But they had to leave at 3/4 time so that they could get their flight back for Ebony to play her 100th game on Sunday. And I am just picturing... Can you imagine sitting there with a disgruntled boyfriend or girlfriend
in an Uber?
In an Uber on the way to the airport as your team is winning back-to-back flags.
He's listening to the 3AW coverage, I'm sure, in his AirPods, not wanting to look at him and look at Ebbs.
That's an empathetic L for those two because that must have been so
hard, and particularly in that game at 3/4 time.
Yeah, exactly.
That game was only won in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I know. You've missed the best
and
bit.
he's gone, oh my God, this is awesome. I get free tickets to the grand final, probably thanks to Toyota. Thanks to my girlfriend who's really, really good at footy, but only to 3/4 time. Would you rather?
But then you got to think it's like, I'm only here because of her and we're going back because she's playing her 100th game. So surely he's, I love you, I love this, I'm so proud of you, but
100%.
Twitching.
Oh, you have to gritted teeth. No, this is all good, Ebony. No, I it's a bit tough.
Big L for Nick and Ebony, but well done for them for pushing through and played a great game.
Yeah, that's it. He'll have a lifetime of free tickets thanks to Ebbs, I think, so he'll be all right.
This week's guest is Cathy Svarc. A huge game on the weekend, played her 75th game for the Brisbane Lions alongside Ali Anderson, her longtime teammate who played her 100th. She's a premiership player, played in 2 premierships and has been celebrated for her ferocity and consistency across the midfield and defence. She started out as a netballer, same as her sister Ruby, and she was drafted by Brisbane in 2019, made her AFLW debut in 2020. She's since become one of the hardest one-on-one matchups in the competition, and we are very excited to have a chat to Cathy Svarc today. Well, Cathy, what a huge weekend it was for the Lions, as we were just talking about off air. 2 huge wins for you guys. Obviously, the boys came back after a huge grand final win. How are the vibes?
Yeah, the vibes are pretty high around the club. It was an awesome day yesterday. We're pretty happy that we could, follow up our job and get the win done yesterday. But yeah, it was pretty awesome having heaps of people out there to come and celebrate the boys. And enjoy our game as well. So it's a good weekend for the club.
Where did you watch? Obviously, Brisbane particularly is this one club mentality, partly because you guys keep winning the thing. But where did you guys watch? Did you watch as a club yesterday or individually if you had to prepare for your game the next day?
Yeah, we actually had a few different little watch parties over, I guess, throughout our team. So we had a few set up at Nats and then out at Springfield, and I caught up. My family were up for Ruby's 50th, so we caught up with them. So it was really nice. Like, we would love to watch it all together, but I think we'd spend so much energy just bouncing off each other. So we try and keep it a little bit tame as well, knowing, got to play the next day too.
Yeah, we talked last week, and we will get to your big milestone as well in a sec, but we talked last week about how we personally were a bit frustrated by the fixturing from the AFL, because if you guys had been able to play on Thursday or Friday like the Cats did, then you probably could have all been there to watch and celebrate it all as one club. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it would obviously be amazing if we could have that opportunity to do that. Obviously, the last 3 years we've played on Sunday, and the men have been in the final the last 3 years, so it would be amazing to not have to, we can let loose a little bit and just enjoy it and not have to worry so much about our prep, because obviously we're still, we're in season. We want to really focus on that too. But, if there's a way that they could make that work, we would absolutely love that, because, it would be an amazing opportunity to be there. Our other girls that were playing down in Melbourne got to go, which was awesome. So at least a few of us were down there, I think. So, but yeah, we all saw their photos, and it honestly just looks amazing. So if that was a possibility, we would love for that to happen, for whomever it is, like, to get that opportunity and celebrate with your club. I think, it would be an amazing thing.
We will get off the boys in a minute because this is a W podcast, but obviously the grand final, it's front of mind. Are there any of the men's players that are good influences on the side that you can lead in for some leadership and playing help as well? Anyone that is particularly giving in terms of their time to the W program?
Yeah, I think, it's been really nice over the last few years, I guess, building a bit more connection with the men's program. And Harris is always, up for a chat. I've, run into Zorko quite a few times over the last month or two, and just getting some advice off him with the little bit of up and down start we've had to the season. So, and we had Lockie come in the other week and just give a little bit of advice to the crew as well. So, yeah, it's actually been really great having a little bit of insight, with all the lessons they've learned over the years, and being generous with their time as well is awesome. So there's so much we can learn, and hopefully that just keeps building, I think, over the next few years too.
How some of the names that just got dropped there, the very handy names to be able to lean on. And you did mention off the top there, like a rocky start for you guys, probably somewhere you guys aren't used to being. How did you find yourself maybe being on the back foot and not where you're, like I said, used to being at the top of the ladder? How did you find to be able to regroup that and get yourself into a position now with maybe an easier run home that you know that you are going to probably be in finals contention? How did that feel back at the club?
Yeah, it's definitely, a different start to, I guess, other years that we've had. And I think we probably just had some of those losses in a closer succession than previous years. But I think the girls have handled it really well. And you're sort of just taking all of those lessons. And I guess you can only look at it in that way, really, to go, okay, well, what can I do better next week? What can we do as a group? And our ability to bounce back has been amazing. And I think even being able to implement different things each week and build on our game and grow some of the other players that are coming through as well. I think, you've got to take all those lessons along the way, and hopefully, the draw was, I guess, harder, in this first half, and hopefully, you never know, the comp is so close now, but we're sort of glad to get a bit of consistency going. So, you always feel a little bit better winning a couple on the road, a win at home, which is great as well. So, that was really nice this weekend to get that too. So, but I think, lots of lessons to learn, and it's good resilience for the group as well to work through that and still push forward and look to the end of the year.
75 games for you, which is so exciting for people that might not be aware. The context of that is it's pretty much equivalent to 150 games for the men. Like, it's so hard to get that amount of games into your legs, because you have to be pretty lucky injury-wise. If you've been playing the whole 10 seasons, you probably have to have played a lot of finals, which you guys, of course, have. Did you have some time to reflect on your career and what an exciting milestone that is?
Yeah, definitely. I think, over the last couple of weeks with the milestone coming up, it was definitely a good time to, to reflect on that and think about, the equivalent of what the men do as well, in that time period, because suddenly 6 years has gone by and I've been playing AFLW for that long. So it actually was sort of crazy when you stop, think about it, and I guess how I've built my career over the last 6 years, and my career outside of football as well, things that have changed, and it's been a pretty amazing journey, and I've loved so much of it, and just learning so much about myself and as a player, and how I can continually improve, and the highs and lows of what we've had over the last few years, has been awesome. So it's awesome to look back at, and I was going through all my old photos, and there's just so many moments there that are amazing, and even just the little things along the way, just being able to reflect and remember all of those little things, I think, is awesome.
What's probably been your favourite memory? The flag, obviously.
Definitely the two flags. You can't go past them. I think, the first one we had, that was pretty early into my career, and you don't really realize how hard they are to come by. And then we've luckily, we've been at that top end, so we've had the losses of the grand finals as well. And I think just sometimes it is, like those pre-seasons, those off-season running where you have the girls getting each other through, and I think just your friendships that you grow in that time, and being able to support each other, and it's just those little moments that you sort of in the grind together, and you get each other through. So I think I've been really grateful for, I guess, the girls that I've gone through this journey with.
Amazing that you got to celebrate your milestone and Ali's milestone as well, because obviously you guys have been teammates for a long time. I mean, 100 games is a huge feat for her. It looked like, from watching on the telly, it looked like there was a lot of fanfare around that, and a really big celebration for you guys to celebrate such two big milestones together.
Yeah, Ali's was so exciting, and I think, her and obviously Ebony as well, becoming the first to play 100 games. It was really exciting, and actually it was just so fun to be able to celebrate that, and, really soak that in for everyone else as well, and what they've done, and, to not miss a game over 10 years is actually insane, of what they've done, and also, the individual accolades that they've gotten, how they've built I guess their game, and continually evolving with it, and continually getting better. So we were really excited yesterday to celebrate her, and I guess what they've achieved. And she got a goal yesterday in the game, and I think every single person on the field ran to her, and it was just really exciting. We got to just soak that up with her, and she had so much family and friends there, and they all had the Ali shirts on, and it was really special. And I think everyone was just feeling so happy, just, enjoying, celebrating her. And she's such a humble person, but, I think she was really feeling like she was reflecting on a lot of things, and, just soaking it all up as well, because it has been a big journey for her too. So, it's a pretty cool thing to achieve.
Speaking of you guys as a team and as a club, obviously I think everybody this year their goal is to beat North Melbourne. You guys were the last team that beat them in the grand final a couple of years ago. And you think, how are they going to do that? I feel as though you as a team are trying to maybe play a little bit different to maybe unleash something in the finals. Are you trying to work that out? And how do you think you as a team are going to be able to do that this year?
Yeah, I think we're just trying to develop out our game a little bit more, and also just we've got a lot of players that, we can play a lot of fast play, slow play, but then we're just developing on everyone's to build out all of our own games as well. So along with that, comes, some of the mistakes going, when do I choose to do that? When do I choose to do this? And I think it's just, building that out a little bit, which is great. And you want to adapt each year, and I guess have other things in your pocket as well. So definitely, North have obviously been great over the last year, and their consistency, and showing up again this year, and being, just really strong again. So, everyone, I'm sure, has got in their mind of how they're going to beat North when they come up against them. And I think, we're slowly chipping away towards that, and hopefully we'll get to see them again sometime at the end of the year, and get the revenge back on them.
Yeah, they're tricky.
Finally. So, but yeah, they have been super consistent. So, that's obviously they're at the top there. So we'll be slowly chipping away to try and face off with them at some point.
You mentioned that you'd had a bit of time to reflect on your journey. You've been playing for 6 years now. You came into footy a little bit later than, but particularly the youngsters we're seeing come in now.
Yeah.
They've come the whole way through. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I definitely, yes, I'm so much later than everyone now, because it is just that pathway's there now, which is amazing, and seeing the young ones come through, it's pretty cool to watch, because I think, again, in another few years, we'll just see the game go to another level. But I started pretty late. I think I was 27, 26 when I started playing footy, and picked it up sort of locally, and that's when I moved up to Brisbane. I was up here and started playing some local footy, and I saw AFLW started, and that's sort of what got me thinking, wow, I would love to do that. So I was lucky enough to randomly pick a team where Kate Lutkins was, and Shannon Campbell, and Belle Dawes. So it was actually pretty random that I just rocked up to this local football club that had some connections. So that was a really fun year for me, just to sort of enjoy that. And we got a premiership there at that local level, and that's sort of where I got into like a train-on position with the Lions. And I guess I made the most of that and made sure that they could see my potential. And then the following year, I got drafted off that. So I was pretty raw initially, I guess, coming across. I'd played mainly netball growing up, and hadn't played any football. So that was, it was quite a quick learning curve, I think, but I absolutely loved it. Like, I loved the challenge, and I loved, the competitiveness, and being at that sort of top level as well, actually being able to push my body more and have the support around to actually, see what our bodies are capable of doing. And, that journey's been amazing on that side of it. So, it was quite a quick rise to, I guess, being in the team. But I, absolutely loved and took any opportunity that came my way. So I did play I think it was a winter series game with the Gold Coast Suns as well. And then I got into the Brisbane list, and then it all sort of just flowed from there. So it was really cool. So, and then here we are 6 years later. So I just think it is crazy, because I guess didn't know that I would be here. Like, it wasn't really something when I was younger that was there for me to see. And now seeing the girls come through, it is really cool. I've had that sort of full cycle of now that how amazing they are already coming through, and their skills. And I'm just loving seeing that come through.
Got on a
especially
Brisbane
this year, we're
list
seeing it.
and Gold Coast uniform directly in the bin, I'd like to say. What?
Straight out.
Straight out.
This season,
Yeah, exactly. What does life outside of training look like for you? Are you still working? And I guess this is what's been really great, and you would have been a big part of this, in terms of you can start slowly seeing the drop-off from players having to work or being able to work less, which has been able to give players more time to train and to give and to get better. Are you still working, or have you dropped off from what you're doing to make sure you've got a little bit there? But how much are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm a physio, I guess, by trade, and I am still working, but I'm working for myself now, which is awesome. So
how many players on your list? How many of the girls like, just a little rub here?
Gold Coast players are like trying to sign up. No. I've worked in lots of different physio clinics over the years, and I was working full time for quite a few years while playing AFLW, and like a lot of the girls, until probably the last 2 years. I think last year I was still working in the clinic, and then took the time to, I guess, I might go out on my own, and I'm doing a bit more sort of online strength and conditioning type of stuff. So I've sort of kicked off my own side business going on there, which is really cool.
Give it a plug.
I'm sort of loving.
Give it a plug.
It's an athlete. It's the Athlete Method, and we're running off-season programs for, I guess, young and upcoming athletes and local footy players. So that's been really cool. So we just kicked off today one of our programs. So I'm loving that journey, and I love, I guess, as being a physio, working with people. And I think for me, I've come and gone in and out of working just from times of needing a break, because it is intensive of full-time work and then also trying to be a full-time athlete. But I guess over the last year, I've really pulled back and just had my own time and space so I can really put back into my AFL and myself a little bit. But knowing me, I like to do other things as well. And it's been a nice balance. And, I'm not just thinking about the game constantly. So I have something else, and thinking about other people, I think really helps me. It sort of keeps me pretty grounded. And just gives me something else to do. I think I like to have that balance as well. I think it is important to, whether you're studying or got something other interests, that does help you keep you grounded, I think, as a player too, because you can get in your head for sure.
Absolutely. And it's nice that you've sort of seen the evolution of that, where initially people didn't really have a choice whether they had another job or not. And now there are players that still feel that they don't have a choice, but we're seeing more and more like you guys actually have the option to decide if you want to do that or if you want to be a full-time athlete, how you manage that, which is such an exciting thing to be in that space now 10 seasons in. We wanted to ask you what it's like playing with your sister Ruby.
Yeah, it's awesome. Again, it's one of those things we both always laugh about and think, it's pretty crazy that we both are, playing an elite sport together. And it's been a really amazing journey, and just seeing, I guess, her develop as well. Like, we were both similar in coming to football at a similar time, and she played down at BFL for Essendon for a year, I think, or two before she got drafted to the Lions. And
she came from netball too, didn't she?
Yeah. We were both sort of netballers growing up. And yeah, we had a conversation. I remember watching it when I lived down in Victoria, and imagine if we played football together, because that's when AFLW sort of just started, and eventually it came about. And I think it's really cool, and just reflecting back on both of our journeys, how far we've come. And she came in that 2021 year where we won the premiership, but she wasn't in the team. And I think what she's brought to the team of just like the continual support and her ability to actually, I guess, really make herself as a footballer and get herself into a team that was quite a strong team already, and then hold her spot too. That's been awesome, and just seeing her develop. And, when we get to celebrate, on the weekend, she did an amazing run, bouncing and then hitting up goals. And yeah, it's just pretty cool. And I think just the journey together is, it's something that we'll always look back and think of how cool an experience that was, and it's pretty special. So yeah, we get to have heaps of fun together.
You are so much nicer about your sister than I am about my sisters. That's for sure.
Everyone expects us to be fighting or something. We're not really like that.
Well, you were so strong in a one-on-one contest. Who's winning between you and your sister in a one-on-one?
Definitely me.
Correct answer.
I wasn't going to say.
But we always laugh about who would beat us in a running race, and I think I'm quicker over the 20 meters, but I think if we're going over 50 meters, she was probably gonna win out on that one for
20
sure.
meter specialist. You only need to be a 10-meter specialist to break through a pack. That's all good.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it. Kathy, thank you so much for chatting to us today. You said you've got a busy day with your side. Well, I don't think it's a side hustle, your work on the side. It's been a huge weekend for you guys. So thanks so much for making the time to chat to us.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Okay, George, what are we keeping tabs on this week?
Well, thank you to Tab, and we're keeping tabs on the top 8. It's starting to get to that time where the top 8 is starting to take shape, but a bit like the men's competition, I think there's probably 6-7 teams all fighting for that 4th to 8th spot.
Yep.
So keeping tabs on that, because I think, Kangaroos, you can't imagine take anything other than that top spot. Melbourne probably locking up the 2nd. The rest, who knows?
Yeah.
So we're going to keep tabs on that, and over the course of the next few weeks, we'll make sure you keep up to date with what's going on. All thank you to Tab.
Let's take a look at the games this weekend. 3AW is covering Melbourne versus Essendon on Friday at Icon Park. That should be a great game. I am very much looking forward to seeing Melbourne in action. I haven't seen Melbourne play yet this season. I think they've been playing away a fair bit, and I think that should be a really good one. But speaking of amazing teams in action, Kangaroos versus Sydney Swans on Saturday in Launceston. I think that should be the game of the round for me.
Yeah, I think so too. And being down at UTAS, I think that actually evens up everything a little bit because of the wind factor down there. It's a little bit harder to play in. The Swans maybe haven't won a couple of games that they probably thought they should have, and might be a little bit of a kick up the bum to get them in up and about for this game here. And when you're playing against the Kangaroos, I think you're playing with house money. I don't think anyone expects you to win, so you can kind of just give it everything. So I kind of agree with you on that. And then also we've got Cats and your mob, Carlton.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.
And at GMHBA, which I stand firm, I think it's such a great venue for footy. Yeah, I love that.
It's good for the women because of the less players, the narrower grounds, I think as well. It's a bit easier for the women to cover.
Beautiful spot. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please follow AFLW Weekly wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Get involved with AFLW Weekly. We love hearing your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening.
See you next week.